Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu podcast. This is episode number 94.
Episode 94.
Yeah. What are we talking about today, Adam?
We're going to talk a little bit about connections, combinations, sequences, what I learned from Mario Reis.
What a title. So, for those that don't know, I am Kieren. That is Adam. And who is Mario?
The Mario. Luigi's brother.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I learned don't watch out for like green shells, red shells, fire, flowers, and that fucking Bowser dude.
Yeah, and mushrooms.
Mushrooms. The mushrooms are good. They make you bigger.
Yeah.
Mario Reis. Guys, you should know who he is. So Mario is the head coach at Alliance Porto Alegre. He's the coach of Nicolas Meregali and a very successful, not only coach, but competitor. He's I think, two-time world champion. He's a pan champion, European champion. He's won all the sort of major competitions, but obviously now being past his competitive career, he's a very reputable coach who has created people such as Nicolas Meregali.
And who is Nicolas Meregali?
I don't know, bro. You tell me. Fuck. So people should know who Meregali is. Unfortunately, no longer with Alliance, but teams and leaving teams, switching teams. We've spoken about that. That old chestnut multiple times. But Meregali is the 2022 black belt absolute world champion and silver medalist in his weight division. But yeah, Meregali was one of those guys who exploded at purple belt and brown belt, winning worlds at purple and brown, and won black belt worlds his first year at black belt as well. So,
And for those that may not know who he is and want to put a face to the name, you may have seen him in the memes for getting disqualified for flipping off someone in the audience.
Oh yeah, so that was at last year's Worlds, which was only 6 months ago actually, because of the COVID Worlds, if you will, that happened in the end of 2021. Typically the Worlds are in the middle of the year.
Yeah,
right?
12 months apart.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So they just happened, a few weeks ago from the moment of recording. So the Worlds usually happen around the end of May, start of June, somewhere there. However, the 2021 Worlds were in like November, something like that. I can't remember the exact date because of COVID. So yeah, he got disqualified for flipping off what was just some guy talking shit at him from the crowd, and yeah, he got DQ'd. Yeah. So he was on track to win last year as well. Yeah, and yeah, so that's Meregali. You've probably also seen him training with Gordon Ryan recently and John Danaher, and he's doing ADCC.
I was about to say ADCC coming up. He's got an invite to that as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him
in Nogi.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, Mario is currently in Australia. He's teaching at my friend's gym, Fabricio, who we've had on the podcast before. He runs the Alliance in the Northern Beaches of Sydney. And yeah, so I went and trained there last night, and it was cool, man. We sat around, we sung Kumbaya, and I'm going to take you through all the lyrics.
Yeah,
today.
nice. Yeah. Starting off with verse 1. Take it away, Adam.
Kumbaya. Yeah, no, it was cool. It's been a long time since I've actually, I can't remember the last time I actually just turned up to a class. I mean, it wasn't taught as a seminar. He's there all week teaching the classes. Yeah. I mean, it was sort of seminar-esque in the sense that there was a bit of like, it was the first class of the week. So there was a bit of that sort of like,
hey, this is me.
This is me, blah, blah, blah. But it was more of a class, right, than a seminar. But it's been, I can't even remember, bro, the last time I got to just kind of turn up and be a student and have to do the warm-up. Oh, my God. I remember I was doing it with Joey, and I was like, bruh, is it hot in here or what? He's like, no, it's just you, bro. Yeah, so it was nice. It was nice just to be a student. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Are you going to go train with him this week?
No, I missed out on you know, because they were like selling tickets for the week. I didn't get on the train.
There was, brings me to a separate point. I'm not going to say names or anything because I don't want to. Usually I'm pretty willing to actually say names, but anyway, it's just, frustrates me sometimes, these very important figures in the sport that just don't get the recognition that, because the success of jiu-jitsu is so short-lived. And I've spoken to you about this multiple times, but on the podcast as well, talking about how quickly your fame and your pull and your leverage in jiu-jitsu can disappear. You know, like if there's a Hodger Gracie seminar and maybe Gordon Ryan's a bad example, but like a Hodger Gracie seminar or a Mika Galval seminar, no doubt more people are going to Mika's, despite Hodger being a 10-time world champion and arguably the greatest that has ever lived, right, so far. And so Mario's doing this 5-day like camp or teaching thing. He's teaching for 5 days in a row. It was like $150 or something to train the whole week there, to go every day. And man, I even told some people about it and they're like, it's fucking expensive, bro, blah, 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 blah. Ignoring the fact that usually a seminar is $150 anyway, just to go to a seminar. And at the same time as that Mario one's going on, there's another similar thing of someone else who is not a black belt world champion, is not, has zero potentially right? But has zero of the accolades that Mario has, and is charging $800 or something for the week.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, like, I'm happy for that person to make some money with jiu-jitsu as well. But I'm also like, I feel for these people that are like, man, this poor dude's been doing it for ages, but just because he's not like Instagram famous or he's not currently competitive he's not a competitor anymore because he's not on Flow Grappling. He's not on Flow Grappling. Yeah. Fucking Flow Grappling. Right, okay.
Insert the rant.
It's been a while. I had to dump a little bit of shit on it. So most people know I'm pretty anti-flow. Right, just the monopoly
flow grappling,
of it,
flow rolling,
all of it. But I recently logged into it. Someone gave me a login. I paid for that shit.
Yes, you did.
I mean,
you're not pirating anything.
No, that's right. No, sorry, I didn't. I logged in because I was on someone else's device, and they were like,
they were showing you. They handed you.
They were like, "Hey, Adam,
that's what happened.
Log in for me." On my device.
Yes,
dude. It is a paid service that has fucking ads on it.
Yeah, they run ads.
Furious, bro. Yeah. Like, that's so bullshit. Like,
it is. I can't believe it.
I didn't spend a lot of time on it because it wasn't my phone that I was using, right? It was someone else's device, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I clicked on one video that ran an ad like a YouTube ad would. It was like a 15 second unskippable ad. And then there's also just on their app, there's just not pop-ups, like as in they don't pop up and block but as you scroll down past sections of advertisements. Man, for a paid service.
It's crazy.
That's so shit.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that. But on a...
that's like double dipping, bro.
I saw something, if you want to get back at Flow for this, like as a revenge, but you still want Flow for the service, but you want to get back at them, apparently, I haven't confirmed this, so, do your own research, but you can subscribe to Flow Wrestling for a cheaper price and get access to Flow Grappling.
Oh, really?
Because you know how Flow, that company, they have Flow Wrestling,
they have
Flow Cycling.
Sports, right?
Yeah, they have a whole bunch of different, they're like the monopoly of the niche sports, right?
Yeah.
If you subscribe to a cheaper one, I think they have this system where you get access to all of Flow. So you can pick one that's cheaper and then get Flow Grappling.
Well, yeah, because if you open like the Flow, even the app is Flow Sports.
There you go.
And then you
choose your sport.
You choose the sport.
Well, I think that I'm not sure if they still do, but they had cheaper price models for smaller sports.
Dude, just get like the smallest one. Like, what other sports do they have?
I think
like,
they have cycling. I think they have. I know they have wrestling,
handball. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
something tiny. I don't know.
Anyway, so get back at Flow for running ads on a paid
dumpling
service.
Juggling or something that like 7 people watch. Combat Karate's maybe on there.
Millions of people watch Combat Karate. You don't give a shit. Combat Karate's the best.
Yeah. Anyway, this was long-winded introduction.
Yeah, what'd you learn? What'd you learn from Mario?
Fuck running advertisements on a paid.
Yeah.
Actually, and you had just told me that was for. I know we got a huge Joe Rogan fan base, right?
Absolutely, so we should.
They that he now has ads on his Spotify that originally he didn't.
Yeah, originally there was no ads because the whole thing was, if you pay for Spotify Premium, you don't get ads. But then Spotify started running ads on the Spotify exclusive, yada yada. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. They're only like 15 seconds. Who cares? They're skippable as well. I skip them.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, that's like
fuck it.
It's kind of like part of the deals that you're not supposed to have ads.
Yeah.
Like I wonder.
Yeah, but it's a podcast. They bend the rules for podcasts. Because like if we ran an ad on this podcast and you have Spotify Premium, that's up to us, and we have the right to run ads, but we don't.
Yeah, but I guess it depends. Like, I don't really know how it works in terms of when you upload the content. But I mean, obviously, if we're making a podcast and if halfway through, like I read a script that's an ad or something, I mean, there's nothing that Spotify could do about that. It's like
they could like reduce our reach, but man, this is going to turn into an analytical podcast. People are like, where's the fucking jiu-jitsu guys? Come on.
I'm not joking. I walked in this morning and Kieren spent the first 5 minutes showing me this spreadsheet that he made. Yeah. That was, don't get me wrong, very impressive. But like, it was like, how many? It's like 12 tabs in this one spreadsheet or something.
And there's like more than 8 spreadsheets. So yeah, more on that coming soon. If you want access to these spreadsheets.
Or if you want to run an ad on this podcast.
We've just lost all of our listeners. I mean, I had a guy approach me, one of the most recent comps. We already did a shout out for everyone that approached us. And I think that I had a like short conversation. He's like, you guys really put the beyond in Beyond Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, that's right. Hey man, we don't want to be pigeonholed into something that
we want to talk about spreadsheets.
Yeah. What if one day we're like, fuck jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, and then it's the spreadsheet podcast. This is my
Beyond the Korean dumpling juggling
podcast. Oh, we get sponsored by Flow. Yeah. Okay, so now that everyone understands who Mario Reis is, his credentials, knows about your gripes with Flow Grappling advertisement.
That's the first thing I said to Mario. Yeah, so let's
this is going nowhere.
Let's go. I feel like there's like a coach over in the corner there, right? And we just need to hit a certain amount of minutes in the episode. And it's like the coach at the comp. He's like, just stall. Stall. Just run out the clock. There's a guy over there just like, they're like when they're trying to like trace a call in a movie, they're like, keep him on the phone. Anyway, Mario Reis, let's talk a little bit about it. It was a pleasure to train with him. He didn't, in terms of the technique he taught, what I took away from it was not the actual technique. Like, there were a couple of cool little details and stuff, but there was nothing sort of, I don't know, maybe it'd be different if you were a lower belt. I'm not saying that, I'm not at all saying I know everything and that there's not these mind-blowing details, techniques to be learned. But obviously I've been around longer, seen more than a white belt or a blue belt. So for me, I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like, it was sort of nothing new, a few little things, but I was like, yeah, sick. It was more sort of in the dialogue and what he was talking about that made me be like, yeah, okay. So one of the things that he stressed a lot was that nowadays the way he teaches, and again, to reiterate Mario's credentials, I always talk about Fabio, and Fabio being for anyone who follows boxing, being like the Freddie Roach of the jiu-jitsu world, created more world champions than anyone else. And Mario has proven as well, like Meregali's his more famous student, but Mario, man, all his dudes are crazy good. Murillo, who now is the head coach at the Alliance in North Sydney, is one of Mario's black belts, and it was I've met him a couple of times, but got to roll with him last night, which was awesome. A reminder of the level of. No, man, we had a good roll. I mean, I'm like 30 kilos.
Yeah, I was about to say that you do have but then again, he won absolute in the local comp recently.
Yeah. So
man, this guy's no joke.
Yeah, he's I knew going into the roll it would be very reminiscent of rolling with Levi.
Yep.
I actually, man, I hate trying to pass those smaller dudes who were at that level so hard. No, we had a good roll. We were only doing 5-minute rounds. It was my first roll, my first training post having the cortisone injection in my knee. I'm not sure if maybe not, we didn't talk about it last episode, but anyway, I've had this ongoing bursitis that is kind of, man, maybe in the last 2 months, I've maybe done 2 weeks of training because I just kept filling with fluid and everything. And anyway, last week I had it drained. They took 12 mils out of my knee and then a cortisone injection. And the doctor was like, take 2 weeks off. And I was like,
okay.
I was like, I've got this seminar in 6 days.
Yeah.
Yes, doctor. 2 weeks it is. But I had like a week off. So anyway, it was first rolls in a little bit. So I definitely gassed out hard. But as soon as the roll started and he pulled guard, I was just like, I just remembered what it's like rolling with Levi. And I was like, fuck, these little fucking spider guard playing motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know, but it was good, you know, there wasn't much space. So we're rolling. And then, you know, once it, you know, just like real, what's the word? Like real precise grips and stuff. And it was good. The roll was going well. And then he, you know, caught me in an arm bar and I was defending and we you know, smacked into the wall. and then Murillo was like, he's like, oh, the wall helped me out there. As in like, he was saying, oh, I got the arm bar because the wall stopped you. And I was like, yes, I was totally going to get out of that arm bar. Yeah, I'll give you that one. And then, we reset the roll again and, you know, again, like tried to sweep in, we smashed into the wall. But then right towards the end of the roll, it was just, again, I haven't rolled with someone of that caliber in quite a while. And just the reminder of how complacent you can get if you're not training deliberately all the time. And what I mean by that is towards the end of the roll, I was playing guard and I let him grab my pants and I shouldn't have let him get that grip. But I was like, oh yeah, kind of like almost how I would roll with one of my students, like a blue belt or a purple belt or something. Not that I was, you know,
disrespecting.
Not that I was disrespecting.
I get what you mean.
I was also like about to puke. Yeah. I was like,
it's like habits. You're talking about your
exactly. And you know, I kind of let him make that first grip, and then I let him make the second grip, and I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's about to do, so it'll be fine. And it obviously wasn't fine. You know, if you let someone of that caliber and. Yeah, anyway, so Murillo is not only a Mario Hayes black belt, he's a bronze medalist at Worlds, nice. I think. Wow. He didn't fight Worlds this year. Unfortunately, he didn't have the points to fight Worlds just due to his move from Brazil to Australia.
He would have missed
he would have missed a lot of the competitions to make points. But yeah, anyway, he's only 28, so hopefully he'll still go on and win or podium next year, you know, fingers crossed for him. Anyway, so what Mario talked about was the importance of teaching connections and sequences, which, as you know, is something I teach in the gym, right? And it was funny doing the class with Joey. You know, he even said like, "Oh yeah, you noticed it's very similar to ways that you do things and blah blah blah."
Obviously, he learned from Fabio, right?
No, well, actually, Mario's originally a Gracie Barra athlete. Wow, okay. Yeah. I'm not sure how he came to be Alliance and with Fabio, but I mean, I remember I never trained with Mario in Brazil, but I remember like he would come to Fabio's gym and he was training with Michael Lange and all the other black belts and stuff. Like, so he's been part of the team for as long as I've been part of the team or longer. But anyway, he's not, I don't know who he got his black belt from. We could check, but yeah. Anyway, you know, just obviously he's probably learnt some teaching of Fabio, like how Fabio teaches or whatever. And yeah, so I teach a lot of sequences, combinations and things like that in the gym. But it was kind of the way he explained it, or I kind of made me have this this kind of not epiphany, but just I never thought about it like that moment. And he essentially said, okay, back in the day, the way you learnt was very just this one technique, and you just did it over and over and over and over and over again. Whereas now there's kind of not enough time in the day. You have to teach or be given a whole sequence, because then, you know, instead of saying, let's say, okay, we're going to do a knee cut, right? Grab a partner, 3 minutes each, and you get 3 minutes of practicing a knee cut, right? For example, what we did in the class last night was, instead of just doing a knee cut for 3 minutes, the technique, in air quotes, was this particular pass to side control, and then they turn in, and then you like do this kind of whizzer thing, then jump over the top, and then an armbar. Right? So It was like 3 or 4 techniques. And then we did another one, which was like the same pass, but then a different reaction from them. And then you consolidate the pass in a different way. Then you pass the lapel, then you jump over, then you do this sort of arm triangle choke thing.
Very similar to the way you teach.
Yeah. So, but it was also just, it wasn't like he even explained it that well. Mario's English is good, but it wasn't like he gave this big articulate lecture about it. It's just what the words he said were good for me. They made me understand it in a different way. And yeah, just kind of saying, well, there's not enough time in the day anymore. The sport's evolved too much. You can't, you know, you need to be more resourceful with your 3 minutes, if you will. So instead of just doing a knee cut for 3 minutes, we're going to do this whole sequence where you're getting 3 or 4 techniques. And he was going on to say that with his advanced students, he'll teach like a 6-7 technique sequence. Like that's what they're doing in the advanced class. Obviously, this needs to be catered to the skill level of the individual. And of course, if it's someone on their first ever day, not necessarily, right? You're not necessarily going to teach it so many steps. But he didn't even then, you know, it's not like he spent 5 minutes to explain. Let's say the sequence had 3 techniques in it. It's not like he spent a huge amount of time explaining each one. You can dive into them in more depth later, because apart from you then getting a broader intake of information, you're also learning something incredibly important in jiu-jitsu that you can't learn any other way other than doing a sequence, which is the skill of connecting techniques, right? So heaps of the time in the gym, I might do similar but different. Like let's say I'll teach one technique, then the second technique, and then for the third round, you're just doing the same techniques, but connect them. Okay, so now you're gonna, you know, do the arm drag to the back straight into the armbar or whatever it is. You know, because there's no way to learn connecting techniques other than drilling a sequence. You know, and that sort of way of thinking about it, and the way he explained it, and that he said that that's how he teaches pretty much everything in his gym now. It's always connections and multiple techniques and sequences. You're then getting so much more. And I did it this morning already in the class that I already taught this morning. We did both sort of sequences that we did last night with Mario. And then when you stop and break it down, I go, okay, guys, look at this. I did longer time rounds for them, because for my students, maybe that many, or at least the students who were present in that class, that many steps was a lot. So I gave them, typically I'll put 3 minutes on the clock to drill. I gave them 5 minutes. And we only did 2 things. So each individual did a total of 10 minutes of drilling, right? And I said, guys, typically I might show you sometimes 3 techniques and you'll drill each one for 3 minutes. So about 9 minutes of drilling versus 10 minutes. So the same amount of time and you get 3 techniques. So today you did 10 minutes of drilling and you did a guard pass with 2 different ways to consolidate the guard pass, and then like 2 different submissions, and plus you were then also learning the connecting. So if you add all that up, it's like, man, 6 or 7 different things you were practicing in that same amount of time. And I really liked the way that, you know, it kind of really made me think about when we've spoken in previous episodes about how these younger guys are getting so good so quickly. When we've said there's not enough time in the day, and we talk about fundamentally understanding the concepts. And that's kind of something else he said as well. Not in those words, but he said, you know, you need to have a deep understanding of the position, the technique, the control, whatever it is, to then be able to execute it in the fraction of a second in a live roll. It's that, I guess it's like any professional, anything, right? It's that deep ingrained understanding, knowledge of something that makes it, that allows professionals to make it look easy. Even, okay, it doesn't even have to be a sport. Like a fucking professional chef makes filleting a fish look way easier than it is, bro, you know, or whatever, or even dicing a bloody onion. They make it look way easier than it is. And I really enjoyed the way for me, that sort of doesn't necessarily change the way I teach, but it makes me understand it better. Kind of go, fuck man, I never really thought about it. I've never really thought that's another reason why I should be teaching that way. I already had my reasons, but I've never thought about it as in, you know, you're maximizing your time. Yeah. And you know, I've got a good analogy for this.
Send it.
No, you go first. I'm out of breath.
Can't leave us hanging on the analogy cliff, man. We're all fucking dangling here.
Having a stroke over here. So this will resonate really well for anyone who does speak or has attempted to learn a second language. And actually, I like a lot of parallels between jiu-jitsu and language. One of the first sort of analogies that was given to me about language and jiu-jitsu was when someone said, the difference between, you know, a really good coach and sometimes a really good just competitor or something is you come across jiu-jitsu guys who are, you know, world champion jiu-jitsu competitors or whatever, but they actually don't really understand what they're doing. Like they do, but they don't really understand the jiu-jitsu that they're doing. Kind of like if I asked you some really complicated grammatical question about English. It's like, well, you speak English fluently because you're a native speaker, but you don't actually understand the language. And I would argue that's the case for most native speakers, right? And you get that in jiu-jitsu as well. You get guys who are native to jiu-jitsu, but they actually don't understand. They didn't actually study jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, totally. I get what you mean. Yeah. I think that teaching analogy is good. Like you may be able to implement a specific grammatical system, say in English, for example, because we're speaking English, but you may not be able to teach it. And if someone says, but why is this the case? You like, I don't know, just is. Yeah. And it could be the same. Like maybe the athlete knows the technique, but if someone goes, why?
While I was living in Brazil, I taught English as a means to pay for my jiu-jitsu. And I had to relearn a lot of things. And one of the things that's difficult for Brazilians to learn is present perfect. I don't know if you remember what that is. I had to relearn this. And I'm probably going to butcher it now because I've forgotten most of it. But present perfect is, for example, like if I asked you, you're naturally going to know that, like why these are, well, you'll know that these are different sentences, but maybe not know why. If I said, Kieren, what's the difference between I lost my keys and I've lost my keys?
That's a good one. Fuck.
Right? You would.
Yeah, I know they're different. I know they mean slightly different things. One's present and one's like past.
Perfect. One's present, one's perfect.
I've lost my keys. Oh yeah, fuck.
Like, but you would use them correctly,
yes,
just naturally, right? And sometimes you get that with jiu-jitsu instructors, competitors. They'll use the correct sentence, but if you ask them why, they'll be like, I don't fucking know, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's do it. Shut
up. Yeah, just because I said.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the analogy that I'm going to give you about this sort of way that I took from Mario of teaching and learning is kind of like when you learn a language, because there's value in both, right? There's value in this, what Mario was talking about, but there's also a huge amount of value in just like pigeonholing down every minute detail of one particular movement or technique, right? Like, I mean, you got to do both, but it is like learning a language. So when you're learning a second language, what are some of like, what do you typically learn first, right? You learn, hi, how are you? My name
Very basic,
is
conversational.
You know, you learn how to count to 10. You learn how to say, sorry, I don't speak whatever language.
Ask for basic directions, perhaps.
Yeah. You know, what's the time? You learn all these but think about it like that. Like you learn how to say, I am, let's say a basic sentence like, I am 20 years old, right? You learn how to say a sentence like that or something. So you kind of get given these sentences or a whole phrase. So that's like your sequence in jiu-jitsu that you're given. It's not like when you're learning a language, we go, all right, Kieren, so before we learn how to say, I am 20 years old, we've got to make sure that you can count from 1 to 1,000 first. Like you got to learn all the numbers first, you know, or you don't say like, all right, Kieren, before we learn how to say, you know, my name is, we got to learn all the, English isn't the best example, but like other languages where the verbs conjugate a lot, but in English they still do a bit. We don't go like, okay, Kieren, before we learn how to say, you know, where is the hospital, right? We're going to learn every possibility. We're going to learn, is it left, right, up the hill, down the hill? Is it after the traffic lights, before the stop sign? Like, you know, yes, at a later time, you can spiral down all the intricacies of, you know, okay, we're going to learn hospital, pharmacy, you know, medical, like all these medical words, but we're not going to necessarily go, all right, guys, today we're learning this one thing and we're going to learn every single minute thing about it. No, I'm going to give you a whole phrase and you're going to be learning just through, you know, just through the exposure to the whole sequence of how to connect them. And as time goes on, like you go, okay, at the moment I only know how to say the number 20 because I learned how to say I am 20. But, you know, as time goes on, you're going to learn all the other numbers. Or when you decide, you're then going to go, okay, I want my number vocabulary to get better and I'm going to get better at that, right? And for me, I was like, man, that really is, you know, like how, like what I think that like the better way to learn it, you know, and the better way to teach it. Right? And
through sequences, through connections.
Because you need to also, but it's that balance, right? You have to be able to do both, right? Yeah, you've got to learn, you know, you got to specialize and learn all the verb conjugations for that one word, but you don't need to be able to learn every single possibility and conjugation and variation of that one word to be able to use before you can use it in a sentence. So you don't need to master one technique before you're able to use it in a sequence.
Makes total sense. Good analogy.
Yeah, I know. It took me a bit to get out.
You're like, fuck, you're drained from these analogies.
It took me a lot to think about that analogy. But, you know, well, try to work hard to make sure people like really get my analogies, Kieren.
We're getting them. Taking notes.
Yeah, fucking bulletproof stealing my analogies, motherfuckers.
This is like some random personal grab. We've lost everyone. Everyone's confused now.
Yeah, and so that's the main, well, that's what I took from the seminar. Like I said, there was, you know, for me, not like the technique, it wasn't about the techniques itself. Yeah, there were a couple of little things I was like, oh yeah, that's cool and stuff. But for, some of the lower belts, even some of the students I showed today, like even one of the purple belts, like was like, oh, I hadn't seen that technique before. So, you know, the techniques were still really cool, but it was more just, you know, he didn't spend a whole 30 minutes giving an analogy like I did, but just that brief sort of, you know, speaking about the importance of sequences and connections. And for me, it was like yeah, man, I get that, the light bulb moment. And so we're going to start doing that even more than we already do.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
And man, it was cool. Like even one of the guys this morning who's newer and less like jiu-jitsu isn't, I mean, hasn't clicked as much for this particular individual. Man, like it was really cool to see them do what was well, if you really broke it down, and if I were to look at that sequence and go, okay, I'm going to teach, I could spend 5 minutes just like it's a 3-step sequence, like as in 3 techniques. I could spend 5-10 minutes just teaching the first technique of that sequence, right? And you could get quite advanced about it. And even last night with Joey, the first bit, I spent a bit of time saying, yeah, but notice how I do this, like you can go down that rabbit hole. But then I was looking at this morning at someone who's not a purple, brown, black belt. They're a lower belt, and they're doing from A to Z essentially a whole relatively advanced sequence. I was like, man, that's fucking cool. You're seeing a dude do something that, is what would appear to be out of their grasp, but it's not, right? If we take the analogy with language again, it's like, okay, man, like that dude's pronunciation and whatever isn't perfect, but hey, he just said a whole fucking sentence. He just said like, hi, my name's Joe and I live in Sydney. How are you? And you go, okay, yeah, it wasn't like the most beautiful sentence, but fuck, he said that whole sentence and the other person understood. Like that's cool.
Yeah. The other person got choked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah. So, as you know, like, yeah, I already do teaching sequences, but I'm looking forward to having this refreshed viewpoint of it. I've got not my beer goggles on. I got my Mario Hayes goggles on.
Excellent.
Right. Yeah. And it was a real honor to actually get to do one of his classes, and fuck, even just to be a student again, it's so much less pressure. Felt great. It felt so good just to rock up and be like,
what's going on, bro?
Yeah, just to be like, don't look at me, man. I'll do whatever that dude says. What do you want me to do, bro? Just tell me what to do.
Yeah,
it was like so carefree. I really enjoyed it.
I had a question, bit left field. You considered what is considered a lower belt? Is a purple belt the cutoff for lower belt, or is a purple belt still a lower belt?
It's just lower than you, I guess.
When people say, oh, lower belts, when you say, oh, yeah, even if you're a lower belt, is it just blue and white?
In my mind, I think if someone just said to me, like, if someone was if I was talking to, let's say, Joey or, another black belt, and they're like, blah, 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 I was rolling with some lower belts, I would kind of default to white and blue. But I guess it also depends, right? Like if you had, like Gordon Ryan and Nicolas Meregali sitting talking to each other, yeah, we were rolling with these lower belts. For them, it could be a brown belt world champion, and they're like, yeah, a lower belt, right? Because it's just like nowhere near.
Black belt, mate.
Yeah, it could be exactly right. Could be another black belt. Yeah. There's no one on their level.
I've always wondered.
I think for the average person, like, I don't know if this is true. I've actually never spent a lot of time thinking about it, but I don't know. I kind of visualize it as, I think it was the last episode I said, well, by default, blue belt's the easiest belt to get.
It was, yeah.
Actually, and then I was like, oh, I guess white belt, you just have to walk in the door. But if I stop and think about it, I'd say white belt's one of the hardest belts to get in the sense. Look at Kieren's face. This is going cringe.
Go on.
But no, you go on. Why are you already cringing?
No, fucking go on.
Why are you already cringing?
I know what you're going to say. You'll be like, because taking the first step's the hardest in the journey.
That's right, bro.
No, you can buy a fucking white belt on Amazon. Shut up, Adam.
Yeah, but then you walk in with one of those karate white belts that are like,
all tied wrong,
cloth thin.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh no,
oh gross.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like sort of cringe that cliche, but to some extent, it's true, man. Like for some people, it is hard to start. I mean, I guess for your mentality and background, like it isn't. Just kind of.
I take that for granted.
Like for some people, it's a big step.
No, you're right.
And especially if you're looking at someone wanting to get into it later in life, man, like, yeah, it's not like as you get older, it's a lot of people, it's harder to do new things, or less time to do new things. So even starting, there is that cringy cliche, but if you do stop and think about it, if you're looking at a 17, 18, 20-year-old, you go, man, just go fucking do it. Like, what else are you doing? Yeah. Like partying. Like, it's not that hard. You got the time, bro. But when you start looking at maybe this dude's 30, 40, got kids, a full-time career, a bit out of shape, worried about getting injured. He's only knowledge of jiu-jitsu is watching the UFC and thinks he's going to get murdered. Like, it can be hard to start.
Yeah, totally. Totally agree.
Anyway, so blue belt's by default the easiest belt to get. And so I kind of, I think I've said it before in previous episodes. I was like, you get your blue belt and you're like, yeah, I'm just not a white belt now. But then you're kind of like, yeah, but I'm only that one after white. People are like, yeah, but you're a blue belt. Like, I mean, you're just one after. It's like, yeah, bro, you just like.
You got a belt. Well
yeah.
You've been graded once.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then like purple belt's kind of that, it's like, yeah, man, I'm now like a intermediate or senior-ish belt. So I think by default, if I lower belts, I think white and blue. But yeah, in saying that, if I were overhearing someone of the likes of Gordon Ryan or Mikey Musumeci or someone saying lower belt,
anything brown.
I would assume, or as you said, other black belts too, right? But I would assume brown and below for guys, for world champion level dudes.
Yeah.
He'll be like, anything that's not, making the podium at Worlds for them is like,
Lower
whatever.
belt.
Lower belt, right?
Lower tier.
Yeah.
I saw this meme.
So this is why you're sitting there going like, fuck, I'm still considered a lower belt.
Oh yeah. No, I get that. I'm junior. I saw this meme recently and it was like, have you seen the thing where, you get like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu or whatever, and then you meet someone like, oh, you train jiu-jitsu? And what belt are you? Oh, purple. Oh, my 12-year-old son in karate outranks you because they're a black belt or whatever. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Man, it's funny.
That's such a good meme.
Our old mates, Dan and Jake, it was so funny. Like their first year in jiu-jitsu, they were so addicted. They were there like every day, twice a day almost. They trained so much. Yeah. I mean, well, Jake just got fat and quit.
Yeah.
And Dan still trains, but he's now gone from sort of that heavy addiction to, well, like a lot of people, Dan's still a super tough role. He's now like, I think a 4-stripe blue belt.
Yeah, he's been 4-stripe for a little bit, yeah.
Still does his like 2-3 classes a week, but yeah, they used to live, I think Dan still does a little bit, but they used to live a very like bachelor lifestyle, and like they'd be out at the pub or the club or whatever, and they're like hitting on chicks or whatever. They're like, yeah, we do jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, yeah, what belt are you? And they're like, oh, we're still white belts, but like 4 stripes, and they'll be like, oh, so you're like a white belt, like you're like you're brand. You're like, no, but like, like when you get like when you get like a stripe and blah blah blah, they're like, so we're like almost blue belts. Yeah. I remember when they got their blue belts, they're like, now we can tell chicks we're blue belts.
Yeah, because they don't know the rank system. Oh, cool. Yeah, so you're not black belt. So they know white belt and black belt, and they know nothing in between. So it's like, oh, cool. Yeah, right.
So even like, I think they quickly learned that saying you're a blue belt doesn't get you chicks either.
Nah, bro. Nah.
Anyway, on that note,
if you want to get chicks, the easiest way to do it is to become a Patreon. Go over to Beyond Jiu Jitsu podcast on Patreon. Subscribe today. Guaranteed to get chicks. Money back guarantee.
Money back guarantee.
Sort of.
Just to clarify, money will not be returned.
Full refunds. Email Alliance Jiu Jitsu.
Alliance Northern Beaches.
Some follow. Shit.
But yeah, guys, that's that was my takeaway from training with Mario. Hopefully, it helps you think a little bit differently about how you approach your jiu-jitsu. I'm definitely going to be continuing to teach how I teach, because like I said, it's kind of what we already did, but with a fresh look at it. I liked that sort of, I hadn't thought about it in that way. So I'm looking forward to then being able to learn new things and push in different directions due to that sort of light bulb moment. And hopefully Kieren over here gets to reap the rewards.
Excellent.
Or not. He's
I don't train anyway.
Just a lower belt.
I don't train anymore. But on that note, guys, thanks for listening. And you know the drill. Support us on socials. Leave us a review. All that good gear. And until next time, see ya.
Later.